Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Muskerry Regional Executive Final for Passionate Discussion for 1985. Tonight we have 5 teams, namely Ovens, Clondrohid, Donoughmore, Macroom and Terelton. First of all, I'll explain the competition to those of you who are not familiar with it. Each team is given 3 subjects from which they choose 2. Tonight a draw was made before the competition and one subject was given to the teams. Each team has 25 minutes in which to carry out the proceedings. After 23 minutes I shall ring a bell indicating that the teams have 2 minutes left. A team of 4 competes, 1 person acting as a chairman and 3 people on a panel. Now to start off the night I'll hand you over to the Ovens team, who are Jerry Murphy, Arthur O'Leary, Carmel Healy and DJ Delaney.
It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all here tonight, and a special welcome to our viewers on television. The purpose of this meeting is to hear a discussion, the Irish Constitution, a time for change. The Irish Constitution was drawn up in the 1930s by the government of the day, led by Eamon de Valera. It was passed in a referendum and became effective on the 31st of December 1937. Ladies and gentlemen, what is a constitution? In 20th century politics, a constitution is a document which lays down the structure of any independent nation's government. It lays down the regulations that govern that country's government. It states the executive and legislative and judicial powers under which that nation operates. It also protects the social and civil rights of any individual who resides within that state. It is a sweeping document which I am sure many of you here tonight have very little idea of its contents. Divorce, abortion, Northern Ireland, and basic human rights of the individual are all problems which face us today. With me tonight on the panel, we have on my left Arthur O'Leary, a farmer, and as he states himself, very conservative in his thinking. In the middle, Carmel Healy, a school teacher and an activist in women's organisations in Cork. Good evening. And on my extreme left, we have DJ Delaney, a company representative with a Cork-based firm.
Good evening.
Before I bring in my panel for their views, I would like to add that this is an open discussion and that the panel have informed me that they are quite willing to answer any questions you may have. So therefore, if you have any queries, would you please raise your hand? Therefore, to begin with, Arthur, is it time for a general change in our Constitution?
No, Mr. Chairman, I don't think it is time for a general change. There is no reason why we can't have a small change in our Constitution if we desire to do that. Since 1937, I think we have had 10 referendums, we have had 8 amendments to our Constitution. And if there is a certain amount of people who want to bring in a change to our Constitution, they can put pressure on the government to hold a referendum so that we could have a change in our Constitution. So I don't think, Mr. Chairman, there is any need for a sweeping change.
Have you any comments, Carmel?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would just like to add that the Constitution was set up in 1937, and let us not forget that it was passed by a mere 40-60 majority. And one must remember that 40% of the people at the time did not agree with the Constitution, and a lot of those people who did not agree with it were women. And I think if you move on from 1937 on to today, you've a completely different country. We are much more urban in our lifestyle. We are much more educated. We travel more. We have a different lifestyle. We're much more broad-minded, and consequently, our Constitution, I feel, should reflect that. And I think quite seriously that if you look at the Constitution today, that you find that there is need for lots and lots and lots of very major changes. And furthermore, I would like to add that, in my opinion, the Constitution is not a very important document, because, I mean, say I could ask How many of you out there tonight know what's in the Constitution? How many of you have even seen it? And like, the Constitution bans such things as abortion. But yet, if I want to go and have an abortion, I can go and do it. Constitution or no Constitution.
Didn't you, bringing cut you short there, Carmel, didn't you, Eamon De Valera never refuted the claim that he consulted the Irish bishops when he was drawing up this Constitution. Therefore, has it an over-influence of Roman Catholic thinking?
Well, I suppose looking at the situation from a business point of view, I think you have to look at it that, well, the customer is always right. And at the time that the Constitution was drawn up, it was drawn up by people who dictated what they want. And I mean, the Catholic Church had a big influence on the drafting of the Constitution in 1937. And you know, we must say that the Catholic Church has a big influence because we have a population in this country of close on now 4 million, and of which the majority, we'd say 3.5 million, are of the Catholic denomination.
You want to come in there?
I'd like to come back on something that Carmen said a while ago. She said that the Constitution does ban abortion, and that she could go in and that people can go in and get abortion if they want to. But I say that the Constitution can only decide what happens in this country. If people want to go away to England and get an abortion, that is their right. So you can't decide what is happening in other countries outside of the country that we're in.
Thus the Constitution doesn't have much effect on people's lives. You're simply proving my point. It's a short trap to go over to England.
Therefore, Carol, is the Constitution good enough for the Irish people in your point of view?
No, in my view, Mr. Chairman, I think it's not. Not for today, it's not. The Constitution was set up in 37. We've had a mere 8 amendments to it, and they were all mere window dressing about whether we'd have PR or whether we allow foreign non-nationals to vote. We've had one all right on abortion, but we'll ignore that for the moment. I'd like to come back to that later on maybe. But I think for today, it's a 1937 Constitution we have, which, as my friend Mr. Delaney has agreed with me, has a very strong influence of the Catholic Church. Like, you open the first page of the Constitution, every jury member, every president, everyone who is to swear in this country has to begin with the words, "In the name of the Holy Trinity." Now, I think that's sectarian.
You want to come in there, didn't you?
I'd like to come in on that, please, because, I mean, we shouldn't really run down the Catholic Church on this particular one, because even though the Catholic Church did have a big influence in the drafting of the Constitution, you can see that two of the leading people in our country were of non-Catholic denomination, you know. We had 2 presidents which were non-Catholic, and I think even though the Catholic Church had a big influence on the Constitution, it did not dictate as to a total Catholic domination of the Constitution.
Exactly, and is it not true, Mr. Chairman, that we are still a predominantly Catholic nation? And another thing Carmen said a while ago, she said that we do need change. But you could see from last year on the anti-abortion lobby, it was a very small group of people. Everyone admits that. It was a very small group of people brought around that referendum. So if there was a need for change in this country, I think any group of people could put pressure on the government.
But surely, Arthur, we are not of the same thinking as the people in 1937.
Yes, I would think we are, Mr. Chairman. You can see that there is still a majority of people against divorce. There is still a majority of people against abortion, the same as there was.
You want to come in, Carmel?
Yeah. In 1937, we had a completely different country. It's completely wrong to say that there is still a clear majority of people against divorce. The latest opinion polls show that 42% of the people want divorce. Now, it mightn't be a working majority, but I don't see why 42% of the people should not get their way just because of a 1937 Constitution. It's not on. It's not.
Do you
fair.
agree with that, then, Joe?
I don't know. You're talking about 42%, but there are also you have to consider the 48% who are on the other side of the fence. And I think, Carmen, you do have to consider those. You know, it is a democratic and a democratic society we are living in Ireland, and you must consider the other 48%. You know.
Yes, Carmen.
Yeah, but surely the strengths or the weaknesses of a democracy lies in how it treats its minorities. You know, it's a dictatorship if the majority completely are ruling the whole time. Like 42% is not something you can ignore. It's not even a small minority, it's a big minority. And at the moment they are being ignored. And I'd say it's a weakness in our democracy and in our constitution that they can't be catered for.
But Mr. Chairman, I think that's a lot of rubbish really, because you have to have some kind of rule and you have to cater for the majority. I mean, what limits do you set as going with your minority? If you have 30% in favour of something, do you let them do what they want? I mean, that's kind of ridiculous.
Well,
really.
to cut it off at that stage, since we have a marked difference of opinion. So, Carmen, since you're very vocal in your crusade against the Constitution, what do you think needs to be changed in it?
Oh, I think, Mr. Chairman, this whole area of divorce needs to be changed in a big, big way. I think it's 1937 thinking. I think, as we've said already, that there is a majority in favour of divorce. I think that should be changed for number one. There's loads of other areas in our constitution that, to my mind, as both as a woman and as an individual, I see as being completely
You want to come in there, Carol?
and wrong.
I'd like to come in there. I'd be totally against what Carmel said. I'd be totally against divorce. If we had divorce in this country, we would turn out like England or America or these places. People getting married at 17 or 18. It would make a sham out of marriage. They wouldn't care. They'd say at 23 or 24, if they got fed up with it, they'd say, let's have a divorce. They might have 3 or 4 kids in the meantime, Mr. Chairman. Where would them kids be left in? What had happened?
Your views on that, then, Joe?
Again, I'd like to come back to this thing that you have to cater for what's being called for in this country. It's very difficult to compare Ireland with America because they have a completely different set of standards there. I don't think that divorce would be suited to this country because the Irish lifestyle wouldn't match up with it. But at the same time, I would think there must be some way of sorting out this problem of broken marriages. It is a major problem in the country nowadays.
And divorce is the answer.
Well, I wouldn't think so, Carmel. I think that divorce is not suited to the
To cut you short then, Joe, we have a question from the audience here.
Can I just put in here, we seem to have a conflict of opinion here. We've got 2 men very much against divorce and 1 lady for divorce. So can I specifically ask this question to Arthur here to start? In this country, we experience in many urban areas a terrible amount of battered wives, battered husbands, and broken marriages. And surely the only answer to this question is divorce. Is a question for change. That we have to have a change. The country is going down the slide unless there is a change. And what is his answer to this motion?
Do you feel that there is a necessity for change, Arthur?
No, I think what you're trying to do then, you have a problem. Okay, you might get rid of that problem, but what would you be left with? You'd be left with a bigger problem. You would be left with, what I said a while ago, you would be people making a total sham of marriage. You would have children who would be from marriages, people that were divorced. Where would they be left, and that kind of thing? You will be creating a totally immoral society if you did bring in divorce into this.
Would you care to respond to that, Cameron?
Yes, indeed I would. I think, to take Arthur's point of view of allowing divorce, that everyone is going to rush out in the morning and let's get married tomorrow morning, sure, we might as well, we can get out of it again, is as good as to say that the Irish people are a bunch of nitwits and that they will rush into marriage just because you can get out of it. Now, I think we should, in Ireland, we should have a small bit more faith in ourselves and recognise that if we had divorce, we would use it if we badly needed it and if there was no other way out. And as you mentioned, battered wives, and if a case like that is coming up. But I have faith in the Irish people, and I think that we would use it only in cases of avoiding extreme hardship, and a hardship that's worse than the situation that we have now.
Would you agree with Arthur or Carmel there, then, Joe?
Yeah, if I could come in, I know that the question was directed at Arthur, but I'd like to make one little point on it. I mentioned divorce already, but I think there's one little example I'd like to make on the subject. Is a guy I met from America at one time, and he was 19 when he got married. He was 20 when he had his first child, and he was 21 when he was divorced. And I don't think we would want to see that here in this country.
Yeah, assuming now, Arthur, that you were married to Carmel here, and you soon found out that you could not live together, what good is your Irish constitution to you then?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think that's bringing it very personal now, Mr. Chairman, talking about Carmel at that time. But I mean, you have to look at it from a broad point of view, and I think, Mr. Chairman, as regards the whole fabric of society, you would be better off without divorce. You'll have people, they will make a sham of marriage, there will be children left around the place. It will create a totally immoral society if you are going to bring in divorce.
Mr. Chairman, I think the attitude of my friend here is absolutely ludicrous. It's the typical Irish attitude of brushing the problem under the carpet and maybe it will go away. Like, let's face up to facts. Marriages are breaking down and let's do something about it.
Well, last year now we had the abortion referendum and it was overwhelmingly passed. Surely, Carmel, our thoughts haven't changed a whole pile since 1937.
No, don't talk to me about the abortion referendum. That's, you had that, churches in the Stole and places like that became political pulpits. You had the Catholic Church, again, exerting the same influence as they had in 1937, and we were told what way to vote. And furthermore, I would argue strongly that in that abortion referendum, the only people that were being directly affected were women of childbearing age, and I think they were the only people who should have been allowed to vote in that referendum.
You want to come in there,
people from 17 until menopause, whenever that was. I don't see how it affected all these pensioners or others, and it should have been kept to those.
I think this is totally ridiculous. First of all, let me say that if the Catholic Church was able to wield their influence that much, what is wrong with that? We are still a Catholic country.
Very much.
Secondly, I can imagine the thing about a woman of 50 coming into a polling booth and the polling clerk could ask her, did she have her menopause yet? See if he give her a ballot paper. I think that's absolutely totally ridiculous. To say that a woman can get pregnant without a man being involved, there's always a father.
There is always a father. I'm delighted to hear that, because we've had so many cases in the last year of women having children, and sad cases. And there was never a mention.
I'd like to bring in Ginger there now.
Of the father. There's no such thing as an unmarried father in this country.
I think there is. I mean, sorry, Cameron, there is such thing as the unmarried father, and I would definitely. If I were a woman, I'd hate to be left out of it, because I think there is definitely such thing as the unmarried father. I think we certainly do consider more about things than.
Well, we have another question from the audience there.
I'd like to ask a question there of Arthur and maybe the rest of the panel as well. On 2 occasions he has mentioned that groups could bring pressure upon the government to bring in referendums to the Constitution. But in the last referendum we found a situation where you had a small group creating a bandwagon. Would you not think it's better that the legislature should lead in bringing in referendums? It is a time for change. Should the lead be from the top?
Would you agree with that, Arthur, that the lead should come from the TDs and Senate?
Well, I wouldn't mind it at all. Mr. Chairman, had the lead come from the top within, you would have people like Carmel, and they'd be giving out medals together that the legislators aren't doing with the people. I think the legislators do actually reflect what the people think, but you would have the likes of Carmel, and she'd come along and she'd say that our TDs and that, they don't know what to think, that they're all very conservative people like myself and that, and I think it's the other way around, that she's in the minority, and that it's like
you want to come in there, Ginger?
Being represented by the TDs.
I would think that it would come up along the line anyway. You know, if you have people on the ground level who want something done, all they have to do is go to their local TD, and you know, it will move up along the channels eventually. If there is enough need for it, if there's enough call for a certain thing, it will move up along the line. And I think it's the only way for it to get things done in this country. You know, you have to really have a majority behind you to get something done. Otherwise, you know, you're only fooling the country.
Yeah, I think the system as it is pretty good, except that I think there is a small danger of a few very vocal people carrying a lot of weight, which in my opinion was what happened with the abortion referendum. You know, it's a tiny minority that really got their sway, and that maybe there are a lot of people who aren't as vocal, who have a very good amendment to bring to the Constitution, but that maybe haven't either got the word power or the power of TDs or whatever to get their say through.
We have another question from the audience there.
Yes, there has been talk about consumers and abortion. Would the panel consider that it would be time to be some change in the Constitution that the people who act responsibly should put the bill somewhat that will be coming on the people at large, taxpayers at large, that is, with the know the father of illegitimate children, that they should be made, pay for their responsibilities.
Yes.
Cameron, would you like to respond to that?
I agree with you 100%. I mentioned it already that this country and our Constitution as well says absolutely nothing about illegitimate children or about the unmarried father. Like Article 40 and 41 are very concerned with the mother and keeping the mother in the home and making sure, there's even an article stating that no mother should be obliged for economic reasons to go out and work to the detriment of her family. There's a very large emphasis put on the woman, the mother, a married mother, a Catholic married mother, to stay at home and do her duty.
Then just since you were talking about the unmarried father, well ago, would you like
to? I mean, it is very wrong, and it would be very wrong to expect the state to come in this case, because it really is a matter between Shelby Cameron, the unmarried father and the unmarried mother. It is a matter between themselves, and I think the state has far too much to carry at the moment than to be carrying other problems in that. I think it is up to the people themselves, and it would be wrong for the state to have to come in and to bail these people out.
Have you any comments on that, Arthur?
Certainly I would agree with Inja there. I don't think I don't think you're going to catch the unmarried father anyway. If you're going to, whatever you're going to do with him, ask him for, he might sail off to Australia or Britain or somewhere like that. I just don't think it's designed.
Yeah, getting away from the divorce issue and the abortion issue, we have also Articles 2 and 3, and we have a major problem in Northern Ireland. Do you think, asking the panel now in general, that Articles 2 and 3 should be dropped from the Constitution?
Yeah, I think they're serious. It ties in with my whole view on the Constitution. I think it's a very dubious document. You know, you have Article 2 telling us that Ireland is a 32-county Ireland. And the next article states that the government of Ireland has jurisdiction over 26 counties. I mean to say, like, people would say that Article 2 is a geographical fact, that Ireland is just 32 counties, and that Article 3 states that the government governs over 26 counties. But it's offending a lot of our friends up in the 6 counties. It's totally unnecessary, in my view. It's not a 32 country Ireland, and I don't see why our written constitution should have such a thing written into it.
Do you agree with that then, Joe?
I think, well, Carmen has said it there really, even though she got the wrong way around it. It is a geographical fact that Article 2 states that, you know, it's 32 counties, but it is unfortunate that at the moment we have only 26 counties under the jurisdiction of our government. And until such time as the English government will say, look, well, we have no longer got jurisdiction over the 6 counties, you know, until that time comes, we cannot think about changing Articles 2 or 3 of the Constitution.
Your comments, Arthur?
I would just like to say that I think this is a problem about the whole interpretation of Articles 2 and 3. It is okay for some of us, but for the Unionists in the North, whenever we are talking to them about Articles 2 and 3, what they say about it is that the government of Ireland claims to have jurisdiction over 6 counties, and they are always cribbing about it. And I think it would be no harm to amend Articles 2 and 3 so that they couldn't have to about it as much as they.
Wouldn't the rights of the individuals in Northern Ireland be lessened since they have divorce and abortion in Northern Ireland? Wouldn't their basic human rights, as they are in that country, wouldn't they be lessened if they came into under our Irish Constitution?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think this Constitution of ours it's a major problem when it comes to unifying Ireland. You know, like, if you're living in the North at the moment, be you Protestant or Catholic or whatever, you can get divorced, you can have an abortion, you have a lot more rights than what you have down here under our 1937 Catholic Constitution. And I think leaving aside the offending Article 2, the Constitution, the rest of the Constitution, the other 49 articles are very much a stopping goat for the unification of Ireland.
Do you subscribe to that, Arthur?
Sorry, I'd like to come in here. I don't agree with that at all. I think you can probably go so far to meet people of the but to bring in divorce and to bring in abortion just because they have it up there and just because you feel it would be a concession to them, I think it is a totally ridiculous thing to do. But whatever they are doing up there, if that's how wrong it is that we should do it.
Didn't you?
I think it comes back again to the very thing that we started with. It's a case of catering for the majority of the people in this country. I mean, it would be very difficult to go changing everything just for the people in the 6 counties. If at the end of the day you found that, you know, there was no point in changing it anyway.
Want to refute, Cameron?
I think my 2 male friends here tonight are forgetting one very important point. They're talking about majorities and that the Constitution is catering for the majority all the time. But they seem to be nicely ignoring the fact that this Constitution was only passed on a 60-40 majority first day. That 40% of the people didn't want this Constitution.
As times run out,
back in 1937.
I would like to ask you, is there anything else you'd like to see changed in the Constitution? Cameron?
Yes, there's loads of things I want to see changed in it. I want to see the divorce, the abortion. I want to see the whole area of the mother changed. I think there's far too much emphasis being put on the mother as a person who stays at home and minds her children. It's suggested that the father is the person that goes out and wins the bread, but there is absolutely no mention of the father in any article in the Constitution pertaining to the home, let alone the unmarried father.
I would be quite happy with the Constitution as it stands at the moment. There are some areas that might need slight change, but if anything, I would think just Article 41 would need slight modification in that the mother would not have to be paid if she had to stay at home, you know?
Yeah, I'm afraid now, ladies and gentlemen, that time has caught up with us. We could stay talking all night. But briefly now, I would like to just run over the points that the panel have come up with here tonight. They have come up with basic problems as divorce, abortion, Northern Ireland, and human rights. The Irish Constitution was drafted in the 1930s and with considerable influence of the Catholic Church. As was seen here tonight in our panel, the Irish people have become a lot more diverse in their thinking, and perhaps it is time for a general rethink of our Constitution. I would like you to show your appreciation to the panel here tonight by joining with me in a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, I would also like to thank you for being an attentive and appreciative audience, and I would like to thank you for your intelligent questions. Ladies and gentlemen, good night.